discussion is that we do have a chance to discuss. So what I am going to do, and I feel like I know a lot of you, but just in case, I'm Marty Lash, professor at Kent State University in Ohio, USA. I've taught in early year programs for 15, 20 years, and then a professor for 8 years now, and working with many undergraduates, becoming in a teacher training college. Kent State's been doing teacher training for 100 years. This is our 100th year anniversary, and we were found as a teacher training school. Every year we have 100 students that we accept into the program to become early childhood teachers. So it's a very big, vibrant program. We have master's students and doctoral students also. So I know most of you, but for those I don't, so you know a little bit about me again. In the sessions that I've had, it's become clear that we're in different parts of the path, different parts of the journey, in thinking about what's good for Beaconhouse schools, what's good in Pakistan, other locations that you have, in terms of thinking about emergent curriculum, child-centered curriculum, curriculum that the teacher isn't up here and the child is down here, moving away from direct instruction. But somehow thinking about all of those things and where we're at, and then getting clear up to a Reggio Emilia-based program, that's a lot of steps. That's a lot of steps. So we need to think kind of incrementally. Richard today was talking about themes, theme units, and sometimes that's where people move in terms of thinking about what is the theme that we're going to do. That used to be very popular, 20 years ago in the U.S., and still many programs do a theme base. We're going to pick a theme for this week and think about that. Then we see more moving into project-based approaches, so that it isn't for this week, but maybe it's for these 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe for this entire semester, or 3 or 4 months, if this is what the children are interested in. And then moving clear into something like a Reggio Emilia based program with very in-depth, long-term programs involving children, the school, the community, their parents, and blooming out that way. I encourage you to aspire to that, but I think depending on where you're at, and it may be a hard place to go, and I was thinking some of the questions I've posed for the discussion groups might be hard if you haven't seen what some extended project-based are. So what I thought I would do is quickly show you the questions, show you a couple of projects that we've done in our school, and then bring it back to the discussion to see how that might make sense with you. And then I can certainly answer questions to help that process. Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of an allergic reaction. Something's going on with my eyes. I don't want you to think I'm contagious and going to make you sick or anything. It just, something happened and I was wearing contacts. I've got on my glasses. I feel fine. My eyes are just a little funky. So just, okay. So some of the questions that we're going to pose, and again, we're going to put these out at the different tables. But one of the first ones going to be is, what do we even mean by project-based learning in early childhood classrooms? We've already had examples of, you say creativity, you say love, even words we use all the time. We have very different, meanings for these words. So we move into something like a curriculum topic, such as project-based, and that's going to mean a lot of different things to teachers, even in the same school. Sometimes the same, city, the same country. We interpret that differently, and I'm going to give 3 or 4 examples of projects that what it means to different teachers. Another question that I'm going to have a discussion group, one table, do is, how does project-based learning engage children? What is it about project-based learning that we're so excited about, or maybe you have some concerns about, but how does it engage children in short and long-term projects, interests that they might have? Here's a big question that I have usually, and that I, in some ways, still struggle with. How are projects determined? So if we say, okay, a project, this is a good way for children to learn, but I have 20, 25 children in my classroom, which project? I mean, so in other words, whose voices are heard? Is it the child who's always talks and speaks up the most and is saying, teacher, teacher, teacher. Do you get that? Are you called teacher a lot? Teacher? That's common. Teacher. And they want their voice to be heard. But how do you, as the more knowledgeable person in the room and the teacher, make these choices? Which child do you listen to? How do you figure out how to choose a project? And then the fourth group will have how does project-based learning vary in different types of early childhood programs? So in a Beaconhouse program, what might a project-based learning look like? In a Montessori, in a classroom that's been very traditional or academic, how might we start to integrate project-based learning? And then the last question that all groups will have, provided we have enough time, is how might project-based learning how might project-based experiences look and facilitate learning in my classroom and school? So we'll do each of the discussion questions at each of the four tables, and then we'll all try to think about, we'll come together, report out each of these four groups, and then we'll come back to this question and discuss it as a large group. Okay. Yesterday, if you were with me in one of the sessions, I mentioned a garden project, not knowing that we were going to have a fair discussion about that yesterday. I had already prepared this to show you. This is one of our most current projects at the Kent State has a laboratory school for about, so it's on campus, a university program, preschool program with toddlers through 5 and 6 year olds, their last grade. The children in our program then will go on to a primary school, either a private or a public primary school. 130 children, Reggio Emilia inspired approach program, and one of the projects that there's 8 classrooms, 2 of the classrooms joined together last year, and it's continued into this year, a program on gardening, a project on gardening, sorry, not a program. And so looking back now, the teachers have entitled this project on gardening, one of the children have said, we can really eat this stuff. So, okay, and I have to tell you, we live in a suburban area, so not far from where we live, there's gardens, and lots of people have gardens, at least flowers, if not vegetable gardens. They're everywhere, so that we have some children who are still just not exposed to that, and so they're saying, oh, we don't have to go to the grocery store to get this, we can grow this, and we can eat this stuff. So that's what they ended up titling it. This is a part of the playground, just so it's fenced. You can see the fence in the background. So we are lucky that we have a nice fenced playground where there's of course sand, there's some climbing structures, there's some bicycles and tricycles and some scooters, chalk, various things that we would carry inside and out for them to play with, balls and hoops. Blocks, those types of things. And in one section, they've made a garden. Okay, and so they're doing everything. They have to first change the garden from green grass into digging it up and preparing it. So, yeah, so that's things that we all know has to happen for a garden. The children went through, and here we see that the field has already been prepared, and they're starting to plant some seeds. I didn't do the whole project. I just hit on some of the main points. I wish gardens grew that fast, right? We plant them, and the next day, So over the course of several weeks, children take responsibility for watering, weeding, caring, and harvesting their garden. So basically what I'm showing you is the documentation that's come out after the project. Not every step of the project, but maybe 10. Here we see later in the summer, corn is very popular in Ohio. So one of the Ohio, Indiana, that kind of Midwest is where a lot of our corn is grown. So in this case, they've grown plants, corn that's taller than they are, and kind of that imagination and playing. It's another big thing that we like to do is to go through the corn, you know, when you're little and that playing. It's kind of like being in a fort and that imagination discovery. And then, of course, another thing that's popular with the children and the adults, beautiful sunflowers that are made. In the background, you can also kind of get a picture of the Ohio countryside. So back there are some wetlands that the children also, over a year or two, have done big projects with there. So that they work with the biologist and they come on. It's not the project that Mary Lou was talking about. That's with high school students. That's a completely different project. But these children work with biologists, write for grants and funding so that they can do some studies and learning back there. But I didn't bring those projects. Okay. But then I think that what we want is, the idea with project-based is how much is extended. Yesterday, I think it was Denny or someone was talking about constructivism, and they talk about, and the same would be true with projects, they are extended outward, but instead of going shallow, the extension frequently goes down. So you try to go deep, you dig into more what's underneath that, how do we make understanding of that, and so one thing that's, again, they grew their sunflowers, enjoyed the beauty of the flowers, and then they began the process of from seed to sunflower to dried flower, and then they start doing, you know, representational art. So all of this is going to take place over several weeks because, you know, the growing season, the enjoyment season, it's pretty common too. We grow sunflowers a lot to make bird planters. So that's what we eat, the sunflower seeds, but sometimes we give them to the birds over the long winter. So there's all these kind of processes where we had a whole, you know, rows of sunflowers. So we'll do different things with them so they can get that depth, what can happen. And again, you're going to see that. So here's doing art about it, they'll write stories about it, they'll tell stories about it, and they'll revisit what they did. And we'll see some examples of that also. Here we have the teacher, and curious children engage with the teacher in the harvest. You can see, man, they're really, even though she's just opening up, you know, a plant there, they're really engaged. The other thing is, this teacher loves gardening, right? So you can see the teachers, because we live in an area that gardens, and so we pick a very real project for the children, that the teachers who've been most successful and have usually chosen this are gardeners themselves. So they know what to do. They know, because I was in on some of the planning for this project, and some people who were a little bit on the outside, they talked for about 45 minutes, and they totally romanticized gardening, which is, you know, you can romanticize it, but has anybody in here gardened at all? It's a lot of work. you do have to weed, and what, you know, you have. Yes.
It's too difficult to maintain a garden.
You have to maintain a garden. You don't get those beautiful flowers and corn this high with just, yeah, so